You have been waiting to feel brave, and the waiting has been very patient, probably even feels consistent, but it's also been very expensive because the moment you were waiting for, the one where the fear goes away and the certainty arrives and everything in you feels ready and the action that follows feels clean and confident and unmistakably correct. That moment, listen, bitch, it's not coming. And listen to me. It's you're not broken. It's because that moment doesn't exist. It has never existed for anyone. It is a myth, a construction, a very convincing lie that has been keeping you at the starting line while the life you are supposed to be living moves forward without you. Courage is not the absence of fear. I know you have heard that. You have probably even said it. And you have also probably found a way to use it against yourself. Because if courage is not the absence of fear, then technically you could act despite the fear, but you haven't been doing that either. So clearly there is something else going on. There is. And today, let's fucking name it. Courage is not a feeling. Courage is a decision followed by a motion. It is the specific act of moving before the internal conditions feel optimal. It is the courage is you say the thing before the voice feels steady, or it's launching before the product feels perfect. It's of showing up before the confidence arrives, of the motion of walking into the room before you feel like the person who really belongs in it. I told you guys yesterday, get in the fucking rooms. You're not going to feel like you belong in it. You need the courage. Courage is not what you feel before you do the thing, it's what you are doing in the act of doing it before you feel ready. And you've already done it more times than you've given yourself credit for in ways that the fear was present for you and you moved anyway. You just did not call it courage because it did not feel like what you thought courage was supposed to feel like. You already have it. You have always had it. And today I want to talk about how to stop waiting for the feeling that was never the prerequisite and start building the life that's been waiting for the decision that was always yours to make. Welcome to the Listen Bitch podcast. I am Brandon Lynette, voice authority. Your mess is your message. And before we go in this, I mean that with everything I have. I am so fucking tired of watching people with real courage performing cowardice because they're waiting to feel brave. I am tired of seeing people who've already survived the hardest things in their lives act like building the podcast is a risk too far. I'm tired of the specific waste of a person who has everything they need to change the room they're in and is instead sitting outside the room asking if they are sure they're ready. You are ready. You have been ready. The feeling you're waiting for is not a signal, it is a stalling mechanism. And today, that shit stops here. Today's episode brought to you by Super Patch. Peace today because I'm a little stressed out because courage and peace are not opposites. Um, the bravest people I know are the ones who feel nothing. They're not brave. It's the bravest people I know are the people whose nervous system is supported enough to act despite what they feel. Peace Patch is what I reach for before the moments that require me to show up fully. You know, recording a podcast episode sometimes, having the hard conversation, the step into the unfamiliar. Then I don't do it to eliminate the nerves. It's to give the nervous system enough support that the nerves do not run the show. I still have nerves, but this is a drug free, no ingredient vibrotactile technology telling my brain through my skin that I am supported, I can move. And the link is in the notes here. Okay, so what is courage? And let's talk about why you already have it. When you encounter a situation that requires courage, the launch, the conversation, the ask, the step into the unfamiliar, your brain runs a very specific and very predictable process. Your amygdala, and bitch, I know you probably use this word in conversations now that you've been listening to Listen Bitch because we've talked about it a lot. The amygdala fires. That's the threat detection system is activated, your cortisol and adrenaline spike, and the body goes into a state of heightened alert. That means your heart rate's going to increase, the breathing gets shallower, the peripheral vision narrows, the prefrontal cortex, that's the part responsible for rational decision making, long-term thinking, and the ability to accurately assess the actual risk versus the perceived risk. It gets partially taken offline because the threat response prioritizes survival over the analysis. And then your brain does something remarkable and terrible simultaneously. It generates a narrative, basically, a story about why the threat is real, why the risk is too high, why now is not the right time, why the version of you that exists right now is not the version that should be doing this particular thing. It sounds like self awareness. It has the very specific texture of someone who is being responsible and realistic and mature about the situation. And really, it's none of those things. It's just the threat response generating the justification that will convince the conscious mind to abort the action. The brain is not protecting you from a bad decision. It is protecting you from the discomfort of the uncertain outcome. And it has been so successful at this so many times for so long that you now mistake the narrative for your own thinking, for your own genuine assessment of the situation, for your actual judgment. It is not your judgment. This is your amygdala's legal team, and they are very good at their job, and they've been getting you to settle for years. And this is where neuroplasticity rewrites the whole story. The fear response, the specific automatic below conscious awareness firing of the threat detection system when the action that requires courage presents itself. That is a pathway, a very deeply grooved, highly efficient pathway built through the years of avoidance, teaching the brain that avoidance is the correct response to this type of situation. And like every pathway, it can be interrupted. And like every pathway, the interruption has to be followed by a different action enough times to build a competing pathway. Every single time you do the thing while the fear is present, every time you move before you feel ready, every time you say the thing before the voice feels steady, every time you step into the room before you feel like you belong, you are weakening the avoidance pathway and strengthening the action pathway. The fear doesn't disappear. The brain just builds a new response to it. One that says, this fear is the signal that something matters, not the signal to stop. The reframe built into the neural architecture through repeated action is what courage actually looks like from the inside of a brain that has been trained to have it. You do not find courage, you build it, one scary decision at a time. And there's a lie that you've been living inside, because if we're going to talk about the courage mythology that's been running your life without your permission, the culture has given you a very specific image of courageous people. Okay? They are decisive, right? They're confident, unbothered by the fear that paralyzes ordinary people. They move into the hard thing with a specific energy that just communicates, I know what I'm doing and I'm not afraid. You see it in the entrepreneur who talks about the launch like it was obvious, or maybe the speaker who owns the stage like the room was built for them. The person on either side of the breakthrough who describes the decision in hindsight as a way that makes it sound clean and clear and it was inevitable. What you're not seeing is what happened before the room, before the stage, before the launch. You are not seeing the 47 times they almost did not do the thing. And they did the thing with the very specific feeling that was present every single time. The voice that sounded exactly like wisdom and was actually the amygdala's legal team making the case for not. You're not seeing any of that behind the scenes shit. You're seeing the after, and you're comparing the after to your before and concluding that they have something that you do not have. They do not have different feelings than you. They just built a different relationship with the feelings they have. They train the brain to treat the fear as information rather than instruction. And they built that through repetition, through the same terror you're feeling right now, showing up every single time, moving anyway until the moving becomes more automatic than stopping does. And that's available to you right now in the very next decision you make. The food industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the media machine, all of them benefit from your inaction. A person who acts on their calling, who builds the thing, who steps into the room that was built for them, That person is no longer a primary consumer. They are a builder. And builders are the most expensive version of a human being for the systems that need you consuming. Big Pharma has an entire product line for that anxiety, right? That the courage deficit produces. I have a peace patch. Big Pharma is going to keep you on lifelong medication. The media sells the story of the extraordinary few who act while the ordinary many watch. The algorithm surfaces the success story that makes your inaction feel even more inadequate. None of this is neutral. All of it is specific machinery of a system that needs you impressed by other people's courage instead of building your own. Get off the sideline. That's the only move you have now. First time I recorded a podcast episode knowing I had no idea if it would land, and I recorded anyway. Obviously not this one. But long ago, before there was a platform, before there was an audience, before there was any evidence that anyone was going to care about what I had to say. Just the mic and the material and this uncomfortable, who am I to think this is worth anyone's time kind of feeling that I did not know about, but now I recognize it. That was the standard pre-courage sensation. Um, I sat in front of the mic. I don't even think it was 20 minutes before I said a single word. And it's not because I was preparing, it's because the fear was going crazy and I was negotiating with it. The back and forth between the part of me that knew this was the thing I was supposed to do and the part of me that had a comprehensive list of reasons why today was not the day. And maybe next week would be better. After I thought about it more and prepared more and maybe I'd feel more ready. Um, I have never felt more ready than I did that day. I have definitely felt differently ready, more experienced, more skilled, more grounded in the work. But like that feeling of being ready for the exposure, of being confident that what I had to say was worth saying, the right people would find it. That feeling was not there that day. And I'm going to be honest, you guys, it's never fully been there on any day since. That's why I still get nervous. And I've learned through that repetition of doing the thing anyway that the feeling is not the prerequisite, the decision is the prerequisite. And the feeling that this is right feeling, it doesn't arrive before the action, but sometimes arrives during or after. And that feeling now is my reward, where I feel that approval. I feel, the message is quiet. That means I got it out. That means I did the right thing. God and I are on point, sticking to the schedule. You guys, the feeling is the reward, not the entry ticket. I hit record. It was imperfect, like all of my shows. The pacing is off always. The the story I told landed the way like a first time story would land. Um, Definitely rough and real. You could tell it wasn't polished into something other than what it was, and it was exactly right because the person who needed it did not need me to have it all cleaned up any more than if you guys ever expect perfection from me on the show, I'm going to disappoint you every single time. People need the real conversation. And if you want the curated shit, then I'm surprised you're even still listening. That's fucking odd because you're not getting the put together, I'm never going to fuck up person. You're getting my brain in real time. The stories in real time. My knowledge in real time. My lack of knowledge in real time. You have a record button in front of you right now, metaphorically. And the question is not whether you're ready. The question is whether you're going to keep negotiating with the fear or if you're going to do some shit about it. The kind of shit that nobody gives you a fucking medal for, kind of way of hitting the button. Hit the button. Hit the button. How long are you going to plan to launch your podcast? How long are you going to plan to write the book? How long are you going to plan to start the business? How long have you been planning? What is stopping you? Oh, you think the content's not good enough? Oh, you think the niche isn't right? You're not sure the timing is correct. This is all bullshit, right? You think it's strategic thinking? That's your amygdala building a case, and it's bullshit. If you knew for certain that the first 10 episodes would be imperfect and awkward and not your best work, if that outcome was guaranteed, and that's what I did, I batched 10 episodes before I launched this fucking show, knowing it wouldn't be perfect. Is it worth it now? 3 years later? 3 shows. I've got 3 shows now. If you knew it'd be worth it, would you still record? Think about that. I know the answer is yes, because the imperfect 10 are the prerequisite for the real work, and the real work is the thing. And I say 10 because that's my advice. Okay? You want to start a podcast? It's so easy. It's fucking easy. You get an account on Audio Boom. Check. You get a Zoom. Check. Use your MacBook, your computer laptop with the camera. Get a cheap microphone on Amazon, a simple Lumi light. And then sit your ass down and record 10 fucking episodes and launch your show. Yeah, it's that easy. Imagine that you record your first conversation. Imagine you do that. And the first 5 minutes, okay, you're going to talk and your shoulders are going to drop. Your voice is going to find a register it's never used. Your eyes are going to change and you're going to come to life because you're finally doing the fucking thing you were made to do. That's what's going to happen. And it's only going to happen when you do the thing. You're so fucking afraid of not being good enough that you forgot you're already good enough to start. Already good enough to start. That is the only qualification that was ever required. And you've had it this whole time. And here's the thing about courage that you've been withholding. It's not weightless on your side of the decision. Every day you do not do the thing, you carry it. It is unresolved, reminding you it's still there kind of weight of the undone thing. It doesn't get lighter with time. In most cases, it really does get heavier because every day that passes adds another layer of it's been too long now to the already present fear. The fear that was about the action becomes the fear about the action plus the explanation of why it took so long to take the action. And then the carrying of it. My God, it becomes the thing. Just talking about this makes me fucking tired. The weight of the undone thing becomes so familiar that it starts to feel like just the way you are. You just walk around with this heavy ass fucking bag on your back all day long. Person with the great idea who has not moved on it, the person with the podcast and the notes app, the person with the message and the story and the calling, and the very detailed plan that's been updated 17 times, launched 0. You know the weight. You've been carrying it. This is what I want you to understand about that weight. It is not protecting you from the risk of doing the thing. It is the cost of not doing it. And the cost is compounding every single day. In the body that's carrying the tension of the undone thing. In the relationships where the version of you that would have emerged from doing the thing has not emerged. In the people who needed what you have and are going without it while you continue to prepare. The cost of not doing it is higher than the cost of doing it. And it's been higher for a while. And somewhere underneath the preparation and the planning and the very reasonable reasons for not yet, somewhere underneath it all, you already fucking know that. If you are carrying the weight of the undone thing right now, if the podcast, the message, the launch, the step has been sitting in the notes app while fear runs the fucking show, share this. First of all, make sure you've subscribed, leave a review, and share this with another person who's in the same spot. They need to hear this. Maybe you guys hold each other accountable and fucking move. Maybe that's what needs to happen. Here's the thing about courage that fear does not want you to know. The first step is the hardest one. And now, full transparency, it's not the hardest by a little. It's the hardest by an order of magnitude because the first step is the one that happens against the full force of the inertia of not doing. Everything in the established pattern is pulling toward the contribution of the pattern. The neural pathway for avoidance is grooved and it's running, and the story is confident. The reasons are fucking prepared. And that familiar discomfort of not doing is going to suddenly feel more comfortable than the uncomfortable discomfort of doing. Take the fucking step anyway. What's amazing is that the physics changes because momentum is not just a motivational concept. It is a neurological one. Every action builds evidence for the next action. Every step creates a slightly lower threshold for the next step. The brain that took the first step has new fucking data. Bitch, we survived. We didn't die. The threat response fires less intensely the second time because the evidence from the first time says survivable, and slightly less intensely the third time, the fourth, and at some point, bitch, that 10th time, the action that felt impossible from the outside feels simply like the next thing from the inside. None of that is available until the first step, and the first step is the one you keep not taking. The fear is going to get the loudest before the first step. And it's not because the first step is the most dangerous, right? It's just because it's the only one that's going to break the pattern. Patterns, we have taught them, our brain, it's going to defend itself. The discomfort that peaks right before you do the thing is not a signal of danger. It is the pattern's last attempt to maintain itself. And it's available to you to recognize as that. That's not wisdom. It's not caution, not the universe telling you, wait. It's the pattern defending itself against the action that would make it obsolete. Take the fucking step. The pattern cannot survive it. Jesus asked his disciples to do things they'd never done in situations they had no precedent for, with outcomes that were not guaranteed and risks that were genuinely real. He did not wait until they felt ready. He said, "Follow me," and he walked, and they either followed or they did not. And the ones who followed did not follow because they were confident. They followed because something in the invitation was more compelling than the fear. Peter walked on water, not because he was extraordinarily brave, because he asked and Jesus said, "Come." And Peter stepped out of the boat in the middle of the fucking storm with no evidence that the water would hold him. The evidence came after the step. The water held him after he committed his weight to it, not before. And then he looked at the wind, right? And then he looks at the waves. And guess what happens? His fear spiked and he sank. Not because the water stopped holding him, but because he redirected his attention from the invitation to the circumstances. The courage did not fail, the attention shifted. And the lesson that Peter and every person who has ever stepped out of a comfortable boat into an uncertain calling has had to learn is that the step and the sustained attention are both required. Yes, the step takes courage. Keeping your eyes on the invitation instead of the circumstance takes practice. Both are available to you right now in the fucking boat you're sitting in while water holds out. If you would only step out of the boat. The water holds when the step is taken every single time. Today, you're going to do the one thing you've been almost doing. I said today, not next week, not Monday, not later. Do the thing. Not the full version, the smaller possible version that counts as actually doing it. If the podcast has not been recorded, record 5 minutes. If the content has not been posted, post one thing. If the conversation has not been had, send the first sentence of it. If the business hasn't been launched, take the one action to make it more real than it was before today. Action today. Not the full thing, just the first step, because the first step is the one that changes the physics. And the physics, once changed, is yours to build on. Then notice what happened after you took the step. The actual outcome, not the feared outcome. The real one, because the fear always overstates the cost and understates the survivability. So give your brain the real data, write it down, say it out loud, because your brain needs the evidence that the step was survivable, that it did not produce the catastrophe the threat response was forecasting. Give it the fucking evidence, file it, use it as the foundation for the next step. And every time the fear narrative fires, every time the amygdala's legal team shows up with the comprehensive cost for not yet, ask one question before you respond to it. Is this wisdom or is this the pattern defending itself? Because they feel identical from the inside, but they are not. Wisdom has new information. The pattern has old arguments. And if the argument sounds like every other argument the fear has ever made and the information has not actually changed, then that's the pattern. Recognize it, say thanks, bitch, for your service, and then move anyway. Okay? Imagine you're the person who's waiting to feel ready. 3 years, you've had your plan in your show notes. 3 years of the message developing, 3 years of watching people build what you're planning. Every year your fear's got a new reason. Maybe it's the equipment, maybe it's the niche, maybe the audience size. You just couldn't justify starting. Imagine that version of you that you need to become. Imagine that. And then something happens, something enough to wake you up, and you confront this possibility of not living your life to the fullest. Imagine being that person and just saying, today, I'm going to fucking do it. Get clarity on the decision and do it, on what it is you need to do. The fear is not going to go away. You have to move anyway. That is courage, not the absence of fear, the decision that the cost of not moving is higher than the cost of moving with the fear present. You have that decision available right now, not someday, but now, in this moment, with this specific weight of the undone thing that is sitting exactly where it's been sitting. The notes app is not a holding place, you guys. It is a graveyard for callings that never got permission. They were always fully authorized to take. I get to be the person who sits across from people who have been carrying the thing for 1 year or maybe 3 years or a decade. I get to help them take it from the notes app into the world where it was always supposed to live. And that's the work, specifically every day. And the people I get to build with do not leave with a plan. They leave with the thing, the podcast, the book, the business, with the thing that was in the notes app, in the ears and the place it was supposed to have always been. And you've been ready. You've been ready for a really long time. The fear was never the truth about your readiness. It's just the loudest voice in the room. So I'm asking you to listen to a different voice, the one that has been underneath the fear the whole time, the one that sounds like your actual calling and not the arguments against it. Let me help you build this. The water holds when you step every single time.